And so it has created over the past decades a distance between those fighting for reparations and the black community that they're trying to get to support that fight. And it's kind of hard to support a fight with people who don't seem to know exactly what they're doing. If the average person were to listen in or read some of the reparation emails and conference calls and whatnot that occur between reparations organizations, well, you would think that, one, everybody's more concerned about African reparations than reparations right here where they are. You would think that all of these black people are trying to fix Africa and can't fix black America. The other thing is you would think that all of these black people are just either sitting in a room, college class, each trying to out-talk the other, each trying to show they're more educated than the other, each trying to use bigger words than the other, and none of them really saying anything about, the progress that has occurred over the past year, the past 5 years, the past 10 years. And so in doing this initiative, we're going to actually show you that progress. We're going to show you how reparations have moved forward or backwards, what percentage of progress have these organizations had over last year. Did they do 10% more progress toward reparations this year than they did in 2009? Are they on track to do they have irons in the fire, so to speak, to do 10%, 20% more toward the goal of reparations for 2011? If we're dealing with, how degrading the black community got between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st, 2009, when you ask that question, how bad did black communities get over that time period? Blacks are quick to tell you, oh, it went down, it got really bad. Now, when you ask them, well, what are black civil rights organizations and what are black reparations organizations doing between January 1st, 2010 and December 31st, 2019 to fix that? And the answer more often than not is they're not doing anything. And so if they're not doing anything to fix it, then that means that the situation is going to get worse. So when you look at, you ask people, well, what do you think the black community is going to be like on January 1st, 2020? Don't even want to think about that. They're like, if it's this bad now, I don't even want to think about what it's going to be like in 10 years. But you can't fix it if you're not willing to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you don't want to think about how bad it's going to be in 20 years, then there are some things you need to be doing right now in order to make that picture a little bit better so that you can think about it. If you don't want to think about how many children were shot and killed last year, well, if you don't think about how many we lost last year, then that means you're not doing anything this year to cut down that number. And that means that you're not going to be doing anything toward next year to cut down that number even more. So, they fall into this trap of, well, I'm just going to pray and let God do it, or I'm just going to pray and let Jesus do it. I'm just going to pray and let Allah do it. Well, you've been praying for 50 years. Obviously, you were sent here to do something. Stop praying for some white folks' God to help you with the things that white folks are doing to your children and grandchildren. It's time for you to start dealing with this situation. What are you doing to make sure that the black males in these schools know how important a last name is, know how important it is to keep your family line straight, know how important it is to know who your mother is, your father is, know how important it is to pick the right female so that they can have strong families and strong family names. You know, if you don't teach these children this when they're young, and by the time they get older, they've already messed up their bloodlines. They've already messed up those last names. They've already mixed up a bunch of stuff that is going to make it more difficult for them when they decide they want to know where they came from. It's, you know, the puzzle is going to be a little bit more jumbled up for them. So we want to make sure that, you know, we get people out of this notion that I'm going to just stick my head in the sand. Remember, if you stick your head in the sand like an ostrich, that means your butt is up in the air and can be kicked all day long. And that's what black people are finding in religion and entertainment and politics, that many preachers and congregations have stuck their heads in the sand. And so white agencies, white organizations are kicking them in the butt, 24 hours a day. Many black entertainers have stuck their heads in the sand. And so, white film companies, white entertainment companies are kicking them in the butt 24 hours a day. And they just have to take it because it won't pull their head up out the sand. And for black politicians, how do you have this many black politicians? And the situation for black people continuously gets worse. That means those black politicians, the Congressional Black Caucus, the different black political organizations, got their heads in the sand. And so white politicians and white organizations are kicking them in the butt 24 hours a day. And so in order to start really dealing with this situation, we're going to have to get those heads up out the sand. And unfortunately, they're not going to be very willing people. They've had their heads in the sand for quite a while. And so it's a scary situation to think about how bad things were. And please understand that if white folks feel like they are losing mental control and physical control of black folks, white folks, you see in this white Tea Party situation, white folks will go back to that mob white mentality of stringing black folks up in trees. That's something that scares the daylights out of many black people. But that's something you're going to have to face. You got white folks, white soldiers that go over there, pick up a gun, and go to other countries. They know they could die, but they go over there for whatever reason to kill people. And so, you got, this is not like, and one of the reasons people ask, well, why are we so hard on black males that go over into the white man's army and fight in these wars overseas? And remember, black people are basically come from an honorable people. And so if someone is coming to mess with you, you have every right to defend yourself and do whatever you have to do to get that person out of your village, out of your kingdom, out of your land. But if you're going over to someone else's village, someone else's kingdom, someone else's land, and you are going over there to kill their people or control their people or whatever, then you are the aggressor. And many black soldiers had a hard time understanding that when they're going over to these different countries, some of them go over there just because of the paycheck. Some of them go over there because they really believe that they're fighting for their country, America. Some go over there because they're fathers or grandfathers did it. But the thing is that once you leave your kingdom, your village, your community, your town, and go over to somebody else's place to kill them, to conquer them, to control them, you are the aggressor.